We've tracked with great interest Donald Trump's recent emergence around vaccines and the discourse. So he's been interviewed now twice in public, pushed on vaccines, and has been unambiguously pro-vaccine. Now, in this interview with Candace Owens, Candace is very clearly trying to push him in trying to slam the vaccine or denigrate it and, talk up some of the more talking points around anti-vaccine mandate and all that, of which he is. But his unambiguous pro-vaccine stance clearly rankling her a little bit. It's a hilarious interchange. Let's take a listen.
Where do you stand on these vaccine mandates? And obviously, I know that you are pro-vaccine. Obviously, you did everything you could to get this vaccine out. I know where you stand on the vaccine.
It was one of the greatest achievements. We did it in less than 9 months.
To be able to do that. Yeah, but now it's taken a twist, right? It's gotten, now we went from, this is a good thing and people should have this option, to military men, you're going to have to resign because you're not getting this vaccine. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I stand on, forget about the mandates, that people have to have their freedom, but at the same time, the vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. We would have had in 1917, remember the Spanish flu, killed perhaps 100 million people. Actually, it ended the First World War because the soldiers were so, a lot of people don't know that. The soldiers got so sick. It was a terrible thing. There were no vaccines, there was no anything. I came up with a vaccine, with 3 vaccines. All are very, very good. Came up with 3 of them in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years.
And yet more people have died under COVID this year, by the way, under Joe Biden, than under you. And more people took the vaccine this year. So people are questioning how...
Well, no, the vaccine worked, but some people aren't taking it. The ones that get very sick and go to the hospital are the ones that don't take the vaccine. But it's still their choice. And if you take the vaccine, you're protected. Look, the results of the vaccine are very good. And if you do get it, it's a very minor form. People aren't dying when they take the vaccine.
What about the masking of children? That's a big one for moms right now.
I think it's a terrible thing.
That flies in the face of science. The kids have a virtual 0% chance of dying of COVID, and yet they're insisting on these vaccine mandates. On these masking mandates, and now even the vaccine mandates for small children. And what's going on there?
I think what's happening is you look at the masks where Fauci and a lot of other people said masks don't mean anything. All of a sudden he becomes a radical masker. Great. I don't like to see the kids with the masks on. They're sitting in school. They have a hard enough time sitting in school.
It's like China. I've been to China.
And yet China's education system's a hell of a lot better than ours. You know what? They're rated number 2 or 3 and we're rated number 44.
But masking children,
no, it's bad.
The way it looks, right? It doesn't look like a free country.
I'm against it.
Amazing, Krystal. She keeps trying to bring him back.
She does.
She's like, but this. He's like, yeah, I agree. But the people who are dying.
But the vaccines are good.
But the vaccines are good. I made them. He's like, they're all mine. My operation worked. Well, listen, if that's what it takes, I don't care.
Yeah.
And also, he's like pointing to the fact that, if you're unvaccinated, dramatically more likely to end up in the hospital and die, especially the people who are old, unvaccinated, old, obese, in particular, that's like, not good if you haven't had a vaccine. And he's pointing to that. He's like, look, at a certain point, they've made their choice. That's okay. Something I've been saying here for a long time. I think this is right on the money of where a lot of people in America feel right now.
Oh, absolutely. The interesting thing too is Trump, in terms of gauging the base and knowing an audience, there is no one better. So he knows in this exchange that if he leans into his opposition to vaccine mandates, he's going to be solidly on ground with where the base is. And she keeps trying to push him to just talk about the vaccine mandate, because we know that that's what the audience wants to hear. He glides right past it. He gives her the answer like, I'm opposed to vaccine mandates. But you got to understand these vaccines work, and goes on and on. Even when she asks him about the military requiring vaccine mandates. And he's like, I'm opposed to that. But this could have been like,
he's like, this could have been way worse.
The Spanish flu. Yeah. And that it was a lot of soldiers who died because of the Spanish flu, and people don't understand. That's where it originated. A lot of people could get sick and die. And, and then she tries to do more people have died under Biden and more people have gotten the vaccine. And she starts to say, so that's made people question. He cuts her off. He's like, it's not because of the vaccine.
Right.
The vaccine works. Keeps coming back to it time and time again. But low-key, my favorite part is when she then shifts to like, well, what about masking children? You don't like that, right? And he's like, yeah, it's terrible. And she says, it's like China. I've been to China. It looks like China. And he says, well, China's education system's a hell of a lot better than ours. Which is probably not the response she was looking for there.
Trump always has always throws a wrench.
Yeah, it reminds me of when was it O'Reilly who interviewed him during the Super Bowl, that he said that thing about, like, he's asking about, well, what about Russia? And Trump's like, what, you think we're so innocent? We got a lot of killers here too.
He's like, you think we're so innocent? I remember watching that and be like,
Yeah. It's like,
yeah,
all right.
yeah, it's like, well, you know, that's always the thing with Trump. And this is always what frustrated me most about him whenever he would appear slavish to the base. I'm like, look, they look to you, man. It's about you. You're the one who leads, not the other way around. And in the absence of Trump, actually, things have gotten some pretty crazy stuff in terms of what's been proliferating. And he has a very big leadership role. It's one of the things that you have to acknowledge when so many people trust him on so much stuff, that by taking a public position unambiguously like this, it has a dramatic impact. I still believe it could have a big one, and it could have made more of a difference. I'm still honestly upset that he didn't appear in that PSA with all the other former presidents telling people to take the vaccine. I thought it was very selfish of him. Sit that out.
I do think it's fair to say this message comes a little late.
Yeah,
like,
it's late.
And it's not that he's ever said, like, you know, opposed to the vaccine, but he's never been anti-vax. Right. But obviously, even with him being kicked off of Twitter and other places, the man can still get the word out if this is something that he wants to push out to the public. So I do think that that is an entirely legitimate criticism of, like, you could have been saying this all along, and it probably would have set a different tone and actually changed some minds. Whereas, it doesn't matter what Joe Biden says. The people who are hardcore
like would have done some percentage. Could have done a lot of difference.
Could have 100% done some good. And he the other thing I think he does that's very effective is pointing out that it was like Democrats like Kamala Harris that were the original vaccine hesitant.
Yeah.
Because it was the Trump vaccine. And I also think reminding people of that can help to break through some of the sort of, the partisan polarization on this stuff. But I mean, listen, if anybody has a chance of selling this message, it's him. I did think it was smart and good of Biden in his speech to give Trump
credit for that. Yes.
For the vaccines as well, which is also just another way of reminding people, like, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris didn't create this vaccine. This was something that was developed under Trump. And so you having questions about the vaccine, you're questioning the science that was done under the Trump administration. So anyway, it's interesting to see. That was a very, very interesting and fun to watch interview.
Right. I enjoyed it.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. We're gonna have more for you later. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it, you get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.